Hello, good afternoon. Hi, my name is Carla Metzdorf. I am a certified health and life coach that works with moms to overcome anxiety. And I'm also admin to the group, Overcoming Anxiety for Stressed Out Moms Who've Had Enough. Today, I am coming on to talk to you specifically about how to stop identifying with anxiety and to create more of the life that you want to live. So as you come on, ladies, please say hi. Hi, hello. Thank you for joining me today. I am just going to find us in the group because I don't always see your comments on the phone. So I want to be able to read comments, and then I still don't see us in the group. For some reason, I am not getting it. But we're talking about identifying with anxiety. There we are. Hi, hey Abby, Brittany, Tracy, hi. Thank you for joining me. It's so good to have you on. So ladies, as you come on, say hello, and let's talk about how you are identifying with anxiety. And by doing so, unbeknownst to you, you're keeping yourself in that anxiety cycle. So look, I put more light. Ooh, I can see. Hey, thank you for joining me. More and more of you coming on. As you come on, please say hi. Say hi. And know that we are talking about identifying with anxiety and how to stop doing that, so that you see more of how and who you want to be in this life, okay? So I like to start a lot of lives with a definition. I always want us to be on the same page, right? I want you to understand exactly what it is I'm talking about. And ever, while I'm talking, you do not understand what I mean, what I'm saying, please ask for clarification, all right? Don't be afraid to be like, Carla, I have not a clue what you just said. Or if you have any questions, put the questions in the comments and I'll get back to you, all right? But ladies, as you come on, say hello. We're talking about identifying with anxiety. Let me just update, because it only allows me to see like 4 comments at a time. Okay. So the definition I want to give today is identification, right? Identification. So when I say you're identifying with something, what exactly do I mean by that? So in other words, it's how you're judging yourself, how you're labeling yourself, right? You're putting yourself in a category. And by doing that, okay, you're keeping yourself stuck when it comes to anxiety. So how do we understand that we're labeling ourselves, and how do we break free from this so that we know, I understand you have anxiety, right? But you don't want to be labeled as the anxious mom, right? That's not who you are. So that kind of just leads me right into, who are you? Do you know who you are? And you might say, yeah, I know exactly who I am. I am the anxious mom who feels like she is abnormal. I am the mom who just feels like she is walking around in a total daze, who can't think for herself, who I used to say I felt like a zombie, okay? So I feel I am the mom who feels broken inside. I am the mom who lives in disappointment, frustration. I am the mom who can never think for herself. I am, like, you might tell yourself and others, okay, all these things about how you're feeling in the moment. But instead of treating it that this is how I feel in the moment, you are talking about it as if this is who you are as a person. Does that make sense? Can you give me a 1? Or do you need more clarification? I'm going to give more clarification anyway. But did that at least make some sense to you? Can somebody just give me a 1? Or, at least somebody ask me a question, or, if you need clarification. But like I said, I am going to still talk about it. It makes sense, Abby? Okay. So, who are you? Not the mom who has anxiety, but who are you as a person? Okay, in order for me to talk about this, thank you, Dawn, thank you, Abby. In order for me to talk about this, okay, I'm going to kind of talk about myself for a second, okay? When I had anxiety, right? Or should I say before I had anxiety, right? If someone said, "Who are you, Carla?" I would tell you that I am a very honest, loyal, fun-loving, I guess I would say mom, wife. I really love with my whole heart, and I love to help people. I would tell you that that I enjoy life. I like to have fun. I like to laugh. These are things I would say to describe myself, right? After anxiety started taking over my life, all right? Where I would not sleep. I mean, sleep was so hard for me. I was not eating well, and I would have panic attacks all the time. I felt very depressed. I felt alone. I felt like what I used to say is I have mashed potatoes for brains, because I felt like I couldn't think for myself, or I couldn't think at all. I felt like a horrible mother and wife. I felt useless. I was very frustrated. I felt like a burden. I used to tell everybody that I was a zombie. And people would be like, "Carla, what does that mean? You're a zombie." And I would say, well, I feel very dead inside. And I would tell everybody that I feel dead inside. That is how I mainly described myself. A burden, dead inside, and I would go around thinking, I just want to be normal again. I just want to be normal. So is this making sense so far? Like who you are, okay? Who you are with anxiety. I just explained it 2 ways, okay? I told you who Carla was without anxiety, who Carla was with anxiety. Sounds like 2 different people, right? Now, what are you experiencing? Well, I'm experiencing anxiety. I have depression, and I am not sleeping. And this is interfering with my relationship and with who I am as a mother. I don't feel like I am a good mother and a good wife. This is what I would say if you asked me what I was experiencing. Okay? So, in other words, what we learned, or at least what you have learned through my life trainings, is that your brain, right? We have different sections in the brain, but when you have anxiety, you are thinking with the part of the brain that is emotion, right? The emotional part of the brain. When you have an anxious mind, okay, it changes how you gather information, how you process that information. So when you are anxious, it changes how you see yourself, how you see others and the world. Is that all making sense, ladies? You're not dealing with your prefrontal cortex, which is over here, okay, where all the logical thinking takes place. You're dealing with a very emotional mind. And when we're emotional, ladies, this doesn't happen just when you're anxious, but when you're angry, when you're sad, and you have to make decisions, right? We talked about this last week. When we have to make decisions for ourselves, for our families, with that anxious mind, we're not going to do the best of job. We're not going to make those best decisions, right? So when someone comes to us, we have an anxious mind, right? We're not going to describe the woman who we were before anxiety. We're going to describe who we are now, how we feel now. The problem with that is, okay, you might say, yes, so what? I'm just being honest. I'm just telling people I have anxiety, right? You're just saying how you feel. There's nothing wrong with talking about how you feel, right? The problem is when you keep identifying with it, all right? When you keep saying to people, I am anxious, okay? I cannot think for myself. You keep putting it as, this is who you are. Not who you're being in the moment, but this is like the new you, okay? The one thing that we know about the brain is a sponge. The brain is listening to everything you are saying. Even to the things that you're thinking. You may not speak it out loud, but if you're thinking it, the brain is absorbing it, okay? It's what you're focused on is what's going to show up the most. So if you're with your friends and your family and all you're doing is talking about yourself and how you feel and how your life has been nothing but anxiety, okay? It goes to show that how much you're identified. Hey, Candy, how much you're identified with it. How much focused you are on it. So in the Bible, Proverbs, there's a lot in Proverbs about being careful about what you say and what you hold in your mind, right? Those who guard their mouths and their tongues keep themselves from calamity. That's Proverbs 21. Proverbs 15. The soothing tongue is a tree of life, but a perverse tongue crushes the spirit. What this is saying, okay, well, actually, I got one more. Proverbs 23. As he thinks in his heart, so is he. So does he become. And what this is all saying, okay, is that the things we're putting in our mind, the things that are coming out of our mouth, okay, we need to be careful. Words are very important. What you hold in your mind, what you tell yourself with conviction. Okay, if you believe the things that are going into your mind, the things that are coming out of your mouth, so you will be. One time, I went to go buy a car. And it's not that I didn't know this make or model, but it was a different color. And I said, gee, I never seen this color before. I don't ever see this color car on the road. Well, what do you think happened? Now I drive, and this is all I see. I see this car, this make and brand, the same color. I put it into my head, and now this is all I see. It's what I'm focused on. We need to be very careful what we tell ourselves and what we identify with. Who are you? You may be that anxious mom, okay? But to keep telling yourself over and over that that's who you are. Yes, you have anxiety. But who were you before the anxiety? So let's how do we change this, right? Let's get to an example of how we can make this different. The one saying that so many people talk about is how broken they are. I am broken. Not just with anxiety, but I've heard people who, let's say, with a disease, some kind of illness, say that because they have an illness that can't be cured. So they'll say, I'm broken, right? I have anxiety, so I'm broken. I am depressed, so I'm broken. Broken, okay, is implying you are not able to be fixed, okay? It's implying, what if we don't remember who we are? Great question, Abby. Give me a second, okay? I love that question. Okay. Broken, all right, is implying that you have no hope. Is it true that there is no hope for you? If you feel that way, totally hopeless, there's no hope, it's no wonder you feel broken. But all I'm going to tell you is that if you're on with me, if you're watching this video and you really feel hopeless in your life, you need to talk to somebody. You need to get help. That is a bad place to be. And I was one of those people. I felt very hopeless. But for some reason, I didn't use the word broken. I never liked that word. But I did use the word that I'm a zombie because I kept feeling dead inside. Which is not any better, okay? Keep telling yourself how dead you feel and see how alive that makes you feel, right? It doesn't. I got exactly what I asked for because let me tell you something. I'm going to get to you, Abby, because that's a great question that needs to be answered. Okay. I kept telling myself, you're a zombie. You feel dead inside. You're a zombie. Now, no, I didn't die. But let me tell you something. My health was greatly affected by this. I went to the doctor one day. And the doctor was, I took this quiz once, okay? I took a quiz once. These quizzes that you see in magazines and, it depends on how much you believe them, how much faith you put into them. But I took this health quiz. According to the health quiz, I think I took it online. But then again, back then I didn't have a lot of online things. So it may have been a magazine. But I took a quiz. According to the quiz, I had the body of a 92-year-old woman. 92. Yep. And I I must have been, when I took that quiz, I think I was in my late 30s. And I had the body of a 92-year-old woman. I was just like, are you kidding me? Then I went to the doctor. Full physical. Guess what? My doctor told me, because my healthy weight was like 120 something. I went down to 109. Now for some of you, that's like, oh, that's your normal weight. But from my height, my frame, my doctor told me my kidneys were about to fail. That's how sickly I was. Your mind is always listening. As you're coming on, ladies, please say hi. And what I'm talking about today is how you identify with anxiety and how we're going to stop identifying with anxiety today. Okay? And be that person who you want to be. Now, Abby asks, but what if we don't remember who we were? Because part of this is understanding who you were and that you are not the person who you feel. Anxiety makes you feel a certain way. Just because you feel, a certain way does not mean that is who you are as a person, okay? You're judging yourself, putting yourself in this category, but it's not who you are as a person. So when you talk, your words, right? What you tell yourself can change your whole character, okay? So to answer Abby's question, what if I don't remember who you were? Then what I suggest you do is, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Like when you tell me, Carla, I just want to be normal. What is that? What does that even mean? You want to be normal? Because that's suggestive, right? A lot of you want to be normal. But what does that mean? Normal to me is not the same normal that you're talking about. So on a piece of paper, who did you used to be before anxiety? Were you always laughing? Were you always having fun, going out? You were the life of the party. Now you have anxiety. You forgot all about what it's like to be happy. You can't even laugh anymore. Because that described me. I loved to be around people. Anxiety made me want to not be around people. I love to laugh and be happy. I wasn't laughing. I think I wish. That was like a wish. I just want to laugh again. I really did forget myself. Instead, I identified with anxiety. Anxiety became who I was. And if you just came on, what I was saying is I always describe myself as a zombie because zombies are dead inside, but they appear alive outside. That is who I was. I was dead on the inside. I felt extremely hopeless, helpless, useless. I was a burden. I felt like I was going crazy. And this is how I would describe myself. But doing that got me into trouble because it kept me stuck. So how do we change this narrative now that we know, right? Ladies, if you're following me, you know there's a mind-body connection, right? What you put in your mind, what comes out of your mouth, right? It matters because you keep yourself in the anxiety cycle because your brain is trying to keep you safe, alive. And if you give it reason to believe that something is wrong, that you're in danger, you're threatened, you're facing some challenge that is like impossible, you're going to stay stuck. That's why it's so important to change how you're talking to yourself. So now, actually, before I move on, Abby, did I answer your question? Do you understand? Okay? If not, I'll try to state better. So if you say I'm broken, okay, let's say you're one of those people who keeps saying, I'm broken, all right? There's a difference between saying, I am broken, and anxiety. Okay, Abby, great. Anxiety makes me feel as if I am broken. Or anxiety makes me feel so hopeless at times. Do you see the difference? Because you're not saying you are anxiety. You're saying anxiety is something that I'm experiencing that's making me feel a certain way. Does that make sense, ladies? You're not owning it. You're not like, yeah, I'm so hopeless. I am so broken. I am so not normal. I am so, like instead of saying all those things and owning it and making it who you are, you're saying anxiety makes you feel that way, but it's not who you are. And believe it or not, the brain will know the difference. But even if you have, let's say, an incurable disease or any kind of condition, or let's say you have an autoimmune, okay? A lot of autoimmune, right? Autoimmune can be helped. It can be fixed. It can be corrected. But that's hard. And you have to find the solution. You have to do what's necessary to get that result, right? Same thing with anxiety, when anxiety takes over your life. So you might be like, well, let's see, I have fibromyalgia and I have this and and every day I am not, I have no energy, and every day I feel like this, and every day, and you explain yourself, this is who I am every single day with this condition. And when someone asks you how you feel, it's always about the condition that you have, right? So let's say you are someone with fibromyalgia, because I mentioned it, okay? Maybe, there's Crohn's disease, I have Hashimoto's hypothyroidism. There's so many different ways, but when someone says to me, Carla, how do you feel? I'm not like, well, I have Hashimoto's hypothyroidism, and this is, and I got this symptom and that symptom, and no, it's something that I have, but I don't make it who I am, okay? So, in other words, anxiety makes me feel so broken, okay, is different than the I ams. Who are you? I am someone who was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and I'm dealing with it. I am learning everything I can about it because I'm going to overcome it. This is why awareness is so important. Because a lot of what we identify with, okay, instead of owning it, how can we overcome it? Have awareness, right, of the thing that you have. Instead of identifying with it, have awareness of what the thing is that you have. and then take those actions to overcome, okay? So when you have anxiety, right, we know with anxiety you get anxious thoughts and anxious feelings, okay? But instead of identifying with those thoughts and feelings, what can we do instead? Now, I am in no way telling anybody to ever ignore or to pretend, okay? I'm not, you are a mom with anxiety, okay? You struggle with anxiety, but what I'm telling you is not to make that who you are, okay? But what I want you to do is not to ignore it, pretend it's not happening to you. Instead, you are a mom who does struggle with anxiety right now, but you're doing everything you can to overcome it, right? But you're not to say, I am always anxious. I always have anxiety, and this anxiety is just never going to go away. I am always overwhelmed. I am. The moment you own it like that, the brain is listening, okay? Yeah, anxiety may make you feel a certain way. Thoughts and feelings, what do we know about them? They are not truth. Thoughts and feelings coming to you with your anxious mind is not the absolute truth. Those anxious thoughts, a lot of what you think about, right, barely happens. All those worries, those anxious thoughts, they're just thoughts. They're thoughts that hardly ever happen, right? They're possibilities maybe, but most of what we think about is just in our minds and doesn't even happen. And the feelings, we feel what we think. So just because our heart's racing, does that mean we're having a heart attack? It just means you're anxious in the moment. In the moment. But it doesn't mean, oh, that's it, my heart is racing, therefore it must mean I am an anxious person. No, I'm feeling my heart race. And what do I know about that? Well, I know, listening from Carla, I'm just going to put that out there, that your anxious mind, okay, always listening, heard me say that I don't like this, or maybe my anxious mind remembers this event and I'm triggered, okay? I'm triggered. So what it's doing is it's keeping me safe. It thinks, because of what the past has taught me, right? It thinks that something else is going on, even though all that's happening right now is that I'm being triggered, that I said or did something that bothered me, or somebody said something or did something that bothered me, right? That's all that's going on. But my brain thinks that I'm in trouble. So it's going to send out what I always call that SOS to the rest of the body, right? Those chemicals that are going to start preparing the body for you for fight or flight. But the thing is, you're being triggered, yes, but are you really in danger? Are you really, really being threatened right now? Does your heart really have to race at 80 beats per minute? I mean, I'm sorry, 80 beats. It better be at somewhat 80 beats, 180 beats. That's abnormal. 80 beats, ladies, is not bad. I didn't mean that. Okay. So, what you tell yourself matters. What you hold in your mind, what comes out of your mouth, matters. Okay? Always acknowledge the thought, acknowledge the feeling. But the thing is the goal actually is to respond to it differently. We're going to respond differently, right? It's just a thought. So when I work with somebody, right, my goal is to help you to really understand that anxiety cycle and to give you the tools you need to deal with anxiety, because I know, all right, long after, you're going to get results right away if you use this information to your benefit. So understanding the anxiety cycle, okay, you're going to be able to talk to yourself differently so that you respond differently. So, for instance, just a thought. This is just a thought. So, let's say you get the thought, this is a hopeless situation. I feel broken. Well, thank you, brain. Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for this thought, because you're just reminding me that it's just a thought. It's really not my truth. Because is this really a hopeless situation? Well, there is hope, because anxiety is something that can be overcome. It's just that I'm not there yet. So what I'm going to do is just let this thought be. I'm not going to pretend it's not there. It's just a thought, but it's not who I am. It's not something for me to act on. And the feeling I'm getting from this thought is just a feeling. It's a response. Okay? The brain is trying to protect me. It's sending out chemicals into my body. Okay? It's not who I am, and it's not what's really is happening. Okay? Because I'm not in danger. I'm really not in a threat right now, right? So feel the sensations, let them be, describe them to yourself. Oh, there goes my heart. There's that sensation again. My heart's beating fast. It doesn't normally beat this fast, but it's beating this way not because there's something wrong, because I've already been to the doctor. I've seen the doctor so many times and he told me my heart's fine, right? Because ladies, until you go to the doctor and you get confirmation, you're not going to believe, okay, the symptoms that you're having unless you go to the doctor and you get that confirmation, right? How you talk to yourself. So when you understand this whole process, the reason why I teach the anxiety cycle is because I want you to understand the process so that when you start recovering, you have all the information, you are recovering, you can talk to yourself like this instead. There's that symptom again. There's the brain trying to help me survive. But yet, I'm not really in trouble. I'm not really threatened. I'm just worried about something. I'm concerned. So what can I do instead? See, doing this, what it does, it gets you out of the being in the, the emotional brain, right? And puts you in that prefrontal cortex. Now you're going to switch where your thinking is coming from. This is why this is so important. Because if you don't understand the anxiety cycle, you're going to keep scaring yourself with your thoughts and what you tell yourself. Does this all make sense, ladies? Do you understand now the importance of why it's so important to have awareness? I always say you can't overcome what you don't know. If you don't understand this, you don't know. You're going to keep yourself in the anxiety cycle because you're going to keep talking to yourself negatively, giving yourself that negative narrative. You're going to keep identifying with anxiety. But when you know anxiety, you know what it is, you can talk to yourself differently. You take yourself out of that anxious mind. You start thinking, engaging more with that logical brain, and you can speak differently. Of course, I know what this is. I understand why I'm anxious. Remember what I talked to you about last week, right? Was it last week? No, it was the week before. Last week was all about decisions with the. All right. What I'm going to talk about is, what I want you to think about is seeing anxiety not as your enemy, but as your friend, right? If you didn't see that live, please go take a look at it. When we can change our thinking, our perspective, right? Everything changes. When you see anxiety and know it for what it is, you don't see it as the bad guy, and you stop identifying with it. Anxiety is not who I am. It's what I'm experiencing in the moment, but it's not who I am. All making sense, ladies? I am not broken. Broken means I am hopeless. That there's nothing that could be done for me. Now, ladies, all right, some of you are in a situation where you were diagnosed with something that cannot be cured. So you're going to say, well, that is me. I have stage 4. I can't be cured. What are you going to say to me now? The rules are they're still the same. It's not that your situation is hopeless. Maybe they can't cure your condition, but who you are, what you do in every given moment is up to you. You need to take responsibility. No, you can't cure your condition, okay, but that doesn't mean you still can't live the life you still have and enjoy it. Does that make sense, ladies? Is all this making sense? Or is this helpful? Anybody have any questions? Anything that I'm saying? When you feel those anxious thoughts, those anxious feelings, it's what is coming into your mind. What are you thinking? What's coming out of your mouth? Catch yourself in that moment. Bring yourself to the present, okay? Use the tools that you are learning to stay present and to be calm. Yes, you believe so, Abby. So I hear doubt. Okay. What about it confuses you, Abby? Think about it that way. Is there anything that I'm saying that confuses you? It's hard sometimes to get out of the emotional brain and into the logical brain. Absolutely, Dawn. But that's why I'm telling you, when you're emotional, right? The thing is to sit with those emotions. What are you feeling? Who are you being in that moment? It's to have that awareness of, this is who I'm being in the moment. This is what I'm thinking in the moment. This is what I'm feeling in the moment. I have a choice what I do with those thoughts and feelings. Does that make sense, Dawn? When you can flip the switch, so to speak, you shift your language, you shift your thinking, you shift your language, okay? And how you are responding, you can engage that logical brain and start making decisions and being who you want to be. Sorry. And if you don't know who, yes, thank you so much. Okay, great, Dawn. I'm glad that you understood that. Yeah, I mean, all this is hard, but then again, Dawn, again, hard. Hard is a mindset thing. Okay? If you keep telling yourself, this is hard, guess what? Your brain is going to keep working for you that it's hard. You're going to keep sabotaging yourself. This is too hard to do. Therefore, boop, I'm not going to do it. Never said that any of this was easy. What I do with you is long term. I'm not looking to just help you deal with anxiety. Ladies, my goal is to show you exactly what you need to get long-term results. Now, can I ever say you'll never have anxiety again? No. And no professional should ever tell you that. Anxiety is an emotion. The goal is to be different with anxiety. You see anxiety as the enemy. It's not the enemy. I'm not going to go through all that because I just did a live training on that. So please go to that live training. You have a choice of who you're being in every single moment. I did my live training last week on that. Go rewatch that one. But this live training is all about what you're keeping in your mind. What is coming out of your mouth? Be aware of that. Be conscious of that. If you can see anxiety as your friend, if you can understand that you are responsible for who you're being in every given moment, you can make the decision, okay, of what you're going to hold into your brain, what you're going to tell your brain in every given moment, what's going to come out of your mouth. Now, you might catch yourself going to somebody, I'm just anxious. I'm anxious all the time. And then you could go, oops, tell yourself, okay, there I go identifying, okay, don't beat yourself up about it. Give yourself grace. I'm learning how to overcome this. There I go identifying again. So, in other words, what you can say is, okay, I have been experiencing anxiety, but I'm working on it. Every day I work on it, and every day I am making progress. Something to that point. Anxiety is not who you are. Just like the disease you have or whatever you're facing, it's not who you are. What are your core values? Who are you when you're not anxious? Who are you when you don't have your disease? What are those core values? Well, who is that person? That person's still alive. That person is still there. Just because anxiety has taken over your life, just because you're dealing with some kind of illness or doesn't mean you have to change who you are as a person. If anything, having anxiety made me stronger as a person. When I let go of the idea of I'm a zombie, I'm always dead on the inside, when I finally understood that mind-body connection, I was like, okay, I'm stopping that right now. I stopped telling myself and everybody else who would listen how I'm a zombie. I started speaking more truth. And the truth is, and ladies, this is what, really helped me. Not only the science, but I started learning God's word. What did God's word say about me? Because if anything has been true, anything that I read, God's word never seems to lie. And every time I spoke God's word, it put a fire in me. And the more I spoke it, the more I lived it, the better I got. The better I was able to let go of these thoughts and these feelings. I learned all that I spoke about in the beginning, Proverbs, right? About what you think about, right? How a soothing tongue is a tree of life, but a perverse tongue will break your spirit. When I first read that, I was like, oh, no wonder. No wonder my spirit is, when I talk about myself, I don't talk about myself very positively. I talk about myself like I'm some sick person, some crazy person. If you want peace, you want life, speak those words. Now I understand you feel terrible. You're in pain. It's hard for you to speak such words over your life when you don't feel that way, right? There was a time where I had no energy, like none whatsoever. Fatigue was who I was. Like I could barely get out of bed. When I got out of bed, the energy just was not there, okay? Then I spoke God's words over my life, okay? One of the things that I learned is that He's always with me. His Spirit is within me, right? He doesn't leave me. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't slumber. He's with me in every aspect of my life. So what I started telling myself is, I have the can-do power of Christ within me. I was living in fear always. I was a big worrywart. No wonder I felt so anxious, right? Because all that built up, right? All that built up, and my body could only take so much. But then when I read God's word on how, why worry? Why worry? Why have any fear? He says in the Bible 365 times. That's at least what Google says. I don't know. I never counted myself. But according to a lot of people, a lot of research I've done, everybody says 365 times it says, do not be afraid. Do not have any fear. We are not to worry or have any anxiety at all. But yet, that's how I was living my life. When I learned His words, I started speaking His words to my life. I may not have felt it at first, but the more I spoke His words, He says in His words, He did not give us a spirit of fear, but a spirit of love, power, self-discipline, and control. He claims we have a sound mind. When I had tons and tons of fear and was having panic attacks all the time, did I feel like I had a sound mind? No, I felt like I was going out of my mind. I thought I was crazy. But then when I read those words, I have a sound mind, I stopped telling myself I was crazy, because God says I have a sound mind. God says this spirit of fear is not from him. So I knew I was causing it. It wasn't from him. Ladies, a lot of people are just coming on. I'm talking about not attaching yourself to anxiety, not identifying with anxiety. It's not who you are. Wow, I'm almost coming up to an hour, so please catch the replay. But what I'm talking about now is how God's word helped me, okay, to detach from the anxiety and help me to understand anxiety is not who I am. What I learned is that I am a child of God. I am in his likeness, right? He created me. He created my brain. He didn't put all those emotions in my brain to harm me, to kill me. He put those emotions in my brain, okay? Because we have to survive. And that's what those emotions are there for. That's what the anxiety is for, to help you survive. Somebody said, and I'm going to try to remember, who said it? Wait a second. Who said it? Oh, I can't remember. One of the authors that I follow said, pain is God's megaphone. And I love that. I love that, ladies. Pain is God's megaphone. Write that down. Put it on a post-it. Put it everywhere. When you're in pain, that is telling you something. We are not meant to live with fear, with worry, with anxiety. We're not meant to live this way. We need to understand what all of these emotions are trying to tell us. We're not to identify with them. The more we say, I am fearful, I am a worrywart. How many times have I told myself I'm a worrywart? I worry about everything and I worry about everybody and I worry. I am anxious. I am an anxious mom. I'm anxious all the time. I can't sleep. I can't. So, that's what I'll be. Proverbs 23, as a man thinks, so is he. When I spoke God's truth over my life, what the word says about me, who I am, my whole life changed. How I think, how I talk to myself. I am nowhere near a zombie. Years ago, and I told this story in the beginning, I took a quiz, told me I had the body of a 92-year-old woman. I got a physical many years later. I built up my life. Now I'm told I have a body of a 25-year-old, ladies. Not to brag, that's not what I mean, but I'm just saying, this is what this can do for you. This is how powerful your mind is. Speak truth and wellness over your life. You want to make your life better? You want to be that person, okay? When someone says, who are you? Okay? You want to be that person? Speak as if that's who you are, because it is who you are. Just because you feel anxious doesn't mean you're not fun. Doesn't mean you don't know how to laugh anymore. It feels that way, but it's not the truth. You can change and flip that switch in any and every moment. Ladies, please refer to my last 3 live trainings, which dives more into everything I said. Okay? And if you're gonna take anything from this, okay, it's you are not anxiety. Anxiety is what you're experiencing, but it's not who you are. You want to change what you are experiencing? Do everything I'm telling you in these live trainings. I do what I do because I know what's possible. And I know you can get results. So ladies, please watch the live trainings. They're all free. And if you can't have access to them in the group, because only the really recent ones, like the ones I just said, are in the group. The older ones are on YouTube, okay? And I have the link for YouTube in the feature section of the group. You could go there anytime and get it, or you could just message me and I can send it to you. I can't say how many times a mom asks me what to do, and I give her the link to a training that I know can help. And then when I get back to her and say, how was that training? I'm being told, I never even watched it. I didn't get that far. Ladies, what I do, okay, is very important because I am trying really hard to bring you awareness so you can overcome this. But if you don't take advantage of the information that's out there, you don't implement it, no one can promise you results. Information is just information. You need to implement. And if you can't implement, you're having a hard time with implementation, please reach out. I have programs where I work with you closely to help you get there. No one has to stay stuck. No one has to identify with this. Healing, transformation is available for everybody. And if you just came on, ladies, I'm about to get off. Okay, I've been on just over an hour. The replay is going to be available to you. But for those who were on, are there any questions whatsoever about identifying with anxiety? Why you identify with anxiety? How to not identify with anxiety? Anybody need clarity? Anyone who's watching? Any questions or anything? I see that a lot of people are watching. There are a lot of people on. Okay, so when this becomes a replay, make sure you watch it. And I also recommended you watch some of the other replays because it's all part of it, ladies. The more you know about anxiety and you implement what you learn, good information. I will start doing this today. Hate I missed it. Aw, had a patient. Tiffany, you always know there's a replay. And I just want to say, Tiffany, I'm so proud of you. I mean, when I first met Tiffany, she was becoming a nurse, and now she has a patient. Yay, Tiffany! I'm so happy to hear that. So, Tiffany, watch the replay, and yes, it will help you to get to where you gotta go. But you must be the greatest nurse. I'm sure that I'm just so happy that you got there, because I remember when you said you were entering nursing school, So yay you. I'm so happy for what you've accomplished. Way to go, Tiffany, for sure, Dawn. But see what can happen, ladies, if you just understand that anxiety is just an emotion. I mean, you gotta face those fears and reach those dreams and stop letting anxiety get the best of you. Stop identifying with it, because anxiety will keep you from becoming that nurse you want to be, or that person you want to be, who you want to be. You know, anxiety keeps you. Thank you so much, ladies. I will definitely watch it. I hope so. But anyone who's watching the replay, you need any clarification, excuse me, you have any questions, put it in the comments. And if you need any help at all to make progress, because information is just information, please reach out to me. Okay? Let's work together. Let's finally get you to where you need to be. Okay? Stop telling yourself how hard this is. It's hard, maybe because you don't have all the information. Maybe because you don't have the support you need. Okay? Maybe because you need accountability. There could be many reasons. You keep putting yourself in that anxiety cycle. You feel stuck. You need help getting unstuck. Reach out to me. I will help you. Be well. Take care. See you next week, ladies. Bye.